Book review: Sky Full of Love, novel by Lorna Lewis. Lorna Lewis's Sky Full of Love is a beautifully crafted, emotionally charged novel that delves into the complex aftermath of trauma, the tangle of human relationships, and the unyielding strength of love in its many forms. This deeply affecting story is not merely about survival. It is about rediscovery, reinvention, and reconciliation. Lewis deftly explores what it means to come home, being lost not just to place, but to time itself. Plot summary: in Sky Full of Love, Lorna Lewis delivers moving, emotionally resonant story of survival, reunion, and the complicated tangle of love and loyalty. That its heart is Nova Lefleur, woman who returns home to Louisiana after 15 long years in captivity. Thought dead by her loved ones, Nova's reappearance is nothing short of miracle, but one that forces her family to reckon with old wounds, buried truths, and future none of them could imagine. When Nova vanished, she left behind husband Quentin, younger sister Lee, and community shattered by her loss. Her miraculous return is accompanied by Sky, her 17-year-old daughter born in captivity. Bright, brave young woman who becomes bridge between the past and the future. Nova, determined to reclaim her life, focuses on building relationship with Sky while adjusting to the unfamiliar rhythm of a world that has moved on without her, but is not as she left it. Quentin, her devoted husband, and Lee, her fiercely loyal sister, share a devastating secret. In the years following Nova's presumed death, they leaned on each other, grieved together, and eventually married. Their union, forged in sorrow, now stands on the brink of destruction as they struggle with when and how to tell Nova the truth. The emotional terrain becomes increasingly fraught. Nova, still processing her trauma, finds comfort in the love of her family, but begins to sense that something is amiss. As she rebuilds her life, the tension between Lee and Quentin becomes impossible to ignore. Sky, perceptive and wise beyond her years, sees the cracks before Nova does and fears the truth will shatter the fragile new family they've become. Lewis explores the delicate dance between guilt and grace as characters grapple with impossible choices. Lee is torn between protecting her sister and preserving her marriage. Quentin is consumed by regret and the desire to do right by both women he's loved in different ways. And Nova must face reality where her return has upended lives, and where the love she longs to reclaim may no longer be hers in the way she remembers. When the truth finally comes to light, the fallout is as heartbreaking as it is inevitable. Nova, devastated, feeling betrayed by the two people she trusted most, her initial reaction is to withdraw, retreating into herself and questioning everything about her place in the world. Yet even in her pain, she is not without compassion, especially for Sky, who urges her mother to consider the years lost not just by Nova, but by those who believed her gone. Through poignant scenes and layered emotional insight, A Sky Full of Love captures the resilience of the human spirit. Nova eventually finds strength and forgiveness, choosing to reclaim her agency and redefine her family on her own terms. While the romantic bond between her and Quentin cannot be repaired in the way she once hoped, she finds healing through her connection with Sky, a newfound independence, and a deeper understanding of love's many forms. Closes on a hopeful note. Nova, no longer defined by what was taken from her, steps forward into future of her own making. Lee and Quentin, too, must reckon with the price of their choices, but in doing so, they commit to supporting Nova's journey, not shaping it. Sky, ever the grounding force, is the embodiment of the past's pain and the future's promise. Lorna Lewis crafts powerful, character-driven narrative in Sky Full of Love, exploring the nature of grief, the elasticity of love, and the redemptive potential of truth. With unflinching honesty and profound empathy, she delivers a novel that is both heartbreaking and affirming, testament to the enduring bonds of family, even in the face of extraordinary trials. The haunting premise, the return of the lost. The novel begins with a moment of monumental upheaval. Nova Lefleur, who vanished without trace 15 years ago, returns home to Louisiana. Presumed dead, she has instead endured unspeakable trauma. 15 years of captivity. Her reappearance is both miraculous and deeply unsettling. She has changed, but so has the world she returns to. Nova's survival itself is testament to her strength, but her resilience, quietly understated. Lewis doesn't dramatize her trauma for spectacle. Instead, she presents Nova as a woman whose pain is stitched into her silences, whose healing comes not from grand gestures, but through tentative connections with her daughter, her estranged family, and ultimately herself. The reunion is not without its complications. Nova's return disrupts the carefully rebuilt lives of those who loved her, her husband Quentin, her sister Lee, community that long mourned her absence. Lewis's handling of this emotional collision is exquisite, layering tension with compassion, and the core of the story, relationships and ruin and renewal. At the heart of Sky Full of Love is the tangled web of relationships among Nova, Quentin, and Lee. Quentin, once Nova's devoted husband, is now married to her sister Lee. This revelation, kept secret from Nova in the early days of her return, sets the emotional tone of the novel. It's betrayal born not of malice, but a shared grief and the desperate need for solace. This moral grayness is Lewis's greatest strength, her refusal to paint any character as wholly right or wholly wrong. Quentin is man divided by guilt and longing. His love for Nova never fully died, but the years apart reshaped him. His marriage to Lee, though unexpected and complicated, provided comfort and stability during his years of sorrow. He is man trying to navigate impossible emotional terrain, hoping to do right by both women, yet slowly realizing that balance might be impossible. Lee, perhaps the most emotionally vulnerable character, is not the villain one might expect. She is painfully aware of the depth of her sister's suffering, and yet she clings to the fragile love she has built with Quentin. Her guilt is profound, and Lewis allows readers to see her inner turmoil, her shame, and her longing for absolution. Lee's conflict is deeply human. How do you honor the memory of someone who returns to reclaim the life you've rebuilt in their absence? Nova, for her part, is the still center around which this emotional storm swirls. Her struggle is not only external, adjusting to world transformed in her absence, but deeply internal. She must come to terms with what was taken from her and what she can still reclaim. Her grief is not only about lost years, but about lost roles, wife, sister, even daughter, yet in meeting her daughter Sky, child born during captivity, Nova finds purpose, unexpected joy. Side, the bridge between past and future. Sky, Nova's 17-year-old daughter, is luminous presence in the novel. Wise beyond her years, yet still vulnerable, she acts as kind of emotional compass for the story. Sky was born into trauma, but she is not defined by it. Her bond with Nova is tender, and their relationship evolves organically. Tentative at first, then fiercely protective. Through Sky, Lewis explores central theme, how love can emerge from darkest places. Sky is both symbol of what Nova lost and what she never knew she had. Their growing bond offers one of the most hopeful arcs in the novel. Sky is also the character who begins to perceive the cracks in her family's fragile foundation. Her desire for truth, for transparency and authenticity, drives much of the novel's momentum. She becomes the bridge between two worlds, the life Nova left behind and the future she must now build. Arc is one of self-discovery as well, learning to trust, to love, and to believe in life beyond what she's known. Her voice, often mature and quietly observant, adds emotional depth to the narrative. Secrets and consequences. One of the central dramatic tensions in Sky Full of Love is the secret Quentin and Lee are keeping from Nova, their marriage. The delayed reveal allows Lewis to examine how families attempt to shield each other from pain, and how those efforts often backfire. The suspense is not driven by the question of if Nova will find out, but when and how devastating the fallout will be. Lewis handles this buildup with great care. The slow and of truth feels natural and inevitable. Readers are allowed to sit with each character's internal conflict, making the eventual reveal all the more poignant. When Nova learns the truth, her devastation is palpable, not only because of the betrayal itself, but because of the layers of love it reveals and obscures. The aftermath is beautifully rendered. Rather than collapsing into melodrama, Nova withdraws into herself. More realistic, emotionally grounded response. Her pain is internalized, her silence louder than words. She must process not only the betrayal, but the reality that life continued without her, and in ways that are painful to accept. Themes: time, forgiveness, and the fluidity of love. Sky Full of Love is thematically rich, with time as one of its most powerful motifs. The novel asks what it means to lose time, and whether it can ever truly be recovered. For Nova, 15 years were stolen, but Lewis does not allow her character to remain stuck in the past. Instead, Nova learns to reorient herself, to measure time not in loss, but in the moments still to come. Forgiveness is another key theme, complicated, messy, and necessary. Each character must forgive themselves as much as they seek forgiveness from others. Lee and Quentin must come to terms with their choices, and Nova must find it in herself to forgive not only him, but the world that allowed her to disappear. Sky, too, must forgive world she never asked to be born into. And then there's love, romantic, familial, maternal, and platonic. Lewis explores love in all its complexity. Not as clean, predictable force, but as something that gifts, surprises, and sometimes hurts. The novel resists the trope of simple resolutions. Instead, it affirms that love can endure even when it changes, even when it breaks and rebuilds into something new. Setting and style. A Louisiana full of memory. Set against the backdrop of small Louisiana town, the novel is imbued with strong sense of place, the humidity, the winding roads, the porches, the food. Lewis paints it all with evocative detail. This is not just setting, but character in itself, one that holds memories, secrets, and solace. Lewis's prose is lyrical but restrained. She doesn't overwrite the emotional moments, instead allowing silence, gesture, and subtext to carry much of the weight. Her dialogue rings true, particularly in the quieter exchanges between Nova and Sky, or the painful but necessary conversations between Nova and Lee. The writing respects the emotional intelligence of its characters and its readers. A courageous ending. The novel's conclusion is neither neat nor simple. Nova does not reunite with Quentin romantically. That part of her life is over, not in anger, but in acknowledgement. She finds peace in her independence, in her relationship with Sky, and in the renewed, if altered, bond with her sister. Quentin and Lee's marriage is irrevocably changed, if not ended. The family unit is reshaped, not broken. This ending is brave and satisfying. Lewis resists the easy route, choosing instead to honor the complexities she's built. There is no return to the past, only forging of something new. The novel closes with sense of forward motion, of tentative hope, recognition that love endures, even if it does not look the way we once imagined. Conclusion. A novel of quiet power. Sky Full of Love is a novel that lingers. Its characters feel real, their dilemmas painfully familiar, their triumphs hard-won. Lorna Lewis has crafted story that explores the deepest crevices of the human heart, its capacity to break, to forgive, and to love again. This is not story of spectacle or sensationalism. It is story of people. Flawed, hurting, healing. Nova's journey is emblematic of so many who were from the brink, how to live again when everything has changed, and how to love again when trust feels impossible. In the end, Sky Full of Love offers no fairy tale solutions, only truth. And in that truth, quiet, breathtaking grace. This is novel for anyone who has known loss, who has lived through the unexpected, and who still dares to hope.